I am Jim Collison and live from the Gallup studios here in Omaha, Nebraska, as well as our offices in Singapore. This is Gallup's Called to Coach, recorded on May 28th, 2019. Called to Coach is a resource for those who want to help others discover and use their strengths. We have Gallup experts and independent strengths coaches share tactics, insights, and strategies to help coaches maximize the talent of individual teams and organizations around the world. If you have questions during this live webcast, we do have a chat room that's available for you. There's a link below the main video window. You can click on that, and there's a YouTube chat room that's available for you right there. If you are listening after the fact and have any questions, you can send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. Of course, don't forget to visit the Gallup Strengths Center, just gallupstrengthscenter.com. For all your Clifton Strengths coaching resources and training needs, you can also catch the video in both downloadable audio. We call that podcasting. All the cool kids are doing it. You can listen to it on your iPhone or Android device in your time on a train, in a plane, in a car. Recapture that time you'd normally be just staring out the windows. You can listen to us and learn as well all the details on how to do that. Coaching.gallup.com. Sarv Atri is our host today. Sarv's the regional director for Southeast Asia out of our Singapore office. Sarv, always great to see you. Welcome back to Called to Coach.
Thank you so much, Jim. It's so good to be back on Call to Coach as well. And I would say today is a historic day when we are launching Call to Coach Philippines. There's a song called the Fight Song, and in that song, there's an excerpt which talks about, a small boat making big waves in the ocean, and that's how Philippines is like. It's like a small boat, a small island, a group of islands in the middle of the ocean. And what it's doing in the strengths movement is just remarkable, with the coaching community on the ground and leaders, on the ground as well, just taking this philosophy and transforming lives. And that's where we would like to start off this series of, Call to Coaches for the Philippines. And first and foremost, we actually have our first leader on the ground, and Sidney. And Sidney is known for his work on talent management and leadership development. He works for an organization currently and takes his whole philosophy of Strengths Finder and, transforms organizations, transforms lives, and transforms teams with it as well, especially in developing leaders for the future. I'm so privileged to have Sidney, talk to us about his journey on strengths. And just a little background on him: his work on strengths coaching and employee engagement has really helped individuals and organizations perform and achieve their goals. And this all started in 2004 when he got introduced to the Strengths Finder while he was with Standard Chartered Bank in Mumbai. And with that, like I say, Eagle found his wings and took the flight. Together with his training on the Q12 as well, he's truly unleashed the power of strengths everywhere he could make a difference with it. He's got 25 years of experience in sales, organizational development, and human capital management in different industries within Asia Pacific, and has helped him assess and provide strategic and practical solutions and guidance that enabled individuals and organizations to achieve their aspirations. Some of his best work in leading development initiatives and coaching has been with teams and coaching individuals. And he says his life's purpose is to enable people to succeed and build better futures for others. From his personal life, he shared with us that, he, besides his fulfilling career, he also has a strength-based family where, his wife, Agnes, also being a Gallup Certified Strengths Coach, and their father and mother to daughters, Nina and Mika. Today, he is, leading, developmental initiatives for Philippines, leading renewable and clean energy company called First Gen Corporation and its parent company, First Philippines Holding Corporation. He has a bachelor's degree in management economics and postgraduate studies in industrial organizational psychology. Currently, he is also completing his executive master's in business administration in the Asian Institute of Management. Sidney, welcome to the show, and tell us more about your strengths journey and what got you to this point in your life today.
Thank you so much, Sarv. This is something I'm really proud of. When I started my strengths journey from Standard Chartered Bank, I still have my book actually with me. I don't know if you can see it there. This is the book way back in 2003. There's still Donald Clifton there. And then I read this book for like a couple of hours on the plane going to Mumbai. And so I got certified in strengths as a strengths coach, and then in Q12. And then from there, I went back and we did talent recruitment. So basically a talent-based selection for our salespeople. And we did a lot of employee engagement activities. We're using impact planning for with the help of Q12 and training our managers on talent management. Then when I went to Pilipinas Shell, I also brought strengths with me. I did a lot of strengths coaching there. And the great thing there was when the first assignment I got was with a business unit that needed it the most. So they needed to turn the business around. So strengths coaching worked. Strengths-based team effectiveness sessions worked to make sure that people create the synergy that we needed. And the Q12 impact planning, which gave birth to the recognition that they needed. And then after that, I went consulting. I did some executive coaching to a lot of executives in the corporate world, and also included strengths coaching there. And then I went to First Gen. First Gen, with First Gen and First Philippine Holdings, I did a lot of strengths coaching, especially with the subs who needed it the most. I also created the Power Camp. The Power Camp uses the talent-based selection, which is so similar to what we did in Standard Chartered Bank. And in here, we were able to choose the high leadership potential talents that we needed for the company. And then I joined the Strengths Council of the Philippines. That's basically my journey here.
Beautiful to hear that. And tell us a little bit more about, what made you get into strengths coaching particularly?
Would you believe if I told you that I wanted to be a priest? So way back in high school, I entered the seminary, and I basically just wanted to give hope and stability in the lives of people, and just care for the poor. But then afterwards, I realized I could do that outside, not just being a priest. So I studied in the Ateneo, and I realized that I could do magic in the lives of people who needed help, especially those who need to turn around their academic performance. And I did a lot of those, and I realized, wow, I have the talent for this, and I'm making a lot of difference in the lives of people. So I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to help people by teaching them, by coaching them, by helping them look at their strengths rather than their weaknesses and see how they can develop some more. And basically, I was creating a network of people who afterwards saw that that it's not just about academics, that they can make a difference in the lives of others. They can do that with other things. They may be poor in one subject, but they are really great at other subjects. And so it built the confidence in them, and right now they are really good professionals. And I'm really proud of them, actually, and they're part of my network right now, helping others create differences in the lives of others as well.
Thank you for sharing that. And it's true. Strengths does, can provide magic to people's lives. And what's your style of just impacting people and teams, bringing magic to them, and how do you do it?
All right. I'll go back to what I mentioned a while ago about Pilipinas Shell. My first assignment actually was with a business unit. Excuse me. Was with a business unit that was in the red. So they were in the red because they were supposed to be sold. And the people there are just looking for jobs, or are being placed in other business units because they're really good. They are high potentials. So the business unit is really meant to not perform. But then the decision was reversed, and now they had to get a young, brilliant guy to lead and basically revive the business. Uh, so this is a chance where I could help both from an individual domain and from an organizational domain. And so what I used was the microeconomics Gallup path of Dr. Clifton. And I am so fond of using that because it gives perspective into what we do, the business case of what we do, in making sure that the business thrives. So the first thing that we did was to look at who are the people who will stay, from the general manager down to the lowest ranked staff. And then we looked at, we did strengths finder test. Everybody got their top 5 themes, and we went to Boracay actually and had discovery sessions there. The discovery sessions included the discovering of their own strengths, but at the same time seeing how others can contribute to damage control. We need to say, how, if I have blind spots in this, how can I help? We also looked at Patrick Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team. If you may recall, the 5 dysfunctions of a team has building trust, courage to take feedback, commitment, building accountability, and attention to results. Without the ones at the bottom, starting with building trust, we cannot perform. Now, you see, we're coming from an organization that is dysfunctional. People were looking at themselves, their own individual selves. They want to survive because they were about to be sold, right? So they were just thinking of themselves. Now we need to let them see that we are now an organization again, and we need to focus on business results. But we need to do this collaboratively. And so going back to the Gallup path, we started with identifying the strengths and making people understand the strengths of one another and contributing to those strengths and complementing blind spots. And then we actually ask them to check what jobs are you really good at given your strengths. So we had to reassign other people who were assigned to the wrong jobs. And so that's where the right fit came. Because some salespeople aren't really fit for sales. They're doing a lot of analysis, but they're not closing. So the right fit came. And then we had to make sure that we build great managers. And that was so critical in the process. And I was so hard on the managers because they have their own mindsets about managing. But in this case, to make the Gallup path work, we need to be single-minded. We need to be single-minded about strengths and about engagement, making sure it works. You see, that alone helped create initiatives like we're going to have a 3 p.m. huddle. No, it's Boracay time. No? That's the recognition. So there's a place where it's called it reminds them of Boracay, and the bell rings at 3 o'clock, and people just huddle around and congratulate people for the things that they did well, right? Every day. And that's where the great managers came in, and making sure they made the recognition happen. That built engaged employees. And you know what? After 1 year, we turned around the business. Right? Now, what made it happen? No? We looked at two sides: organizational change and individual change. I had so in organizational change, we need to look at the processes, the culture, and the values that we needed to follow. But you see, people needed to know, are you taking care of me? And that's where strengths come in, because strengths is too personal. Strengths look at mindset and motivations of people. And that's why it's so critical that they're holding that book. That it's a white and blue book. It's a smaller one. They're holding that book and saying that the company takes care of me because they understand my motivation and they understand my mindset, and my effort are geared towards what I do best. And basically, that's how I was able to help impact individuals and teams in an organization.
Beautiful. And strengths are best discovered in Boracay. No better place to do it. But as you think about, two big challenges that coaches feel, especially when running organization initiatives, Sidney, is first is buy-in and second is sustainability. So what did you do well that helped you create a buy-in that, okay, great, we all buy into this philosophy and are able to have that conversation. But also once they went back from beautiful Boracay back to the traffic of Manila, how did you sort of create sustainability that people didn't go back to old habits?
Oh, great question. In strengths coaching, the trap is to help people see what their strengths are. So, for example, I'm competition. Wow, great, I'm competition. And people get strengths envy. There are strengths envy because I am competition, or I am strategy, right? But that's the only thing they remember. So they fall into the trap of remembering and maybe even understanding. And it stops there in coaching. Sometimes they get to apply it by just going through the process of reflection. And okay, since I've thought about this one, I'm going to do it. What we did in the organizations I've worked with is we pushed it up a little bit more into analyzing it. Does this really work? Is this relevant or not? No. Will this make a big impact or not? And being more creative. And being more creative is not just about, come up with something out of the box. It's about thinking about something new that will give you 10 times the value that you are expecting. Yeah? And why does that matter? Because people want to have good stories to tell. People want to say, I've done something really good. And something really good is not just about, of course, being kind is good, right? But sometimes there's a thrill in doing something 10 times more than how you usually do it. And the recognition systems that we create in the organizations I've been with reward that. They call for that. They call for that creativity. But other than that, to make it sustainable, it's really to train coaches, to train managers, definitely managers, and to help people understand, the coaches, the employees understand that there is such a thing called Bloom's taxonomy. The diagram that you saw a while ago is Bloom's taxonomy. It tells you up to what level you can push your learning and create something of value.
Which is a great example there with Bloom's taxonomy, Sidney. How did you use that particularly? What question did you ask people to make that shift in behavior?
All right, good. So, in remembering and understanding, it's really very academic. We're used to that. So which of the top 5 do you like the most, right? So and can what if you have to rename your top 5, what would you name them, right? So that's understanding. It's really about understanding what your strengths are. Now the question is, how are you going to use this? Huh? How how is this going to make an impact in your performance, in your goals? And so you have to look at your SMART goals. SMART meaning specific, measurable, achievable, results oriented, and time bound. How is that going to now help deliver results? How is this going to help manage your relationships with the people that matter to you? Right? So it's this application. It's the ability to write it down and be specific about it that helps you apply it. Now, at the analysis phase, the questions really are, how is this relevant to your boss? How is this relevant to your wife or your husband? How is this relevant to your kids? How is this relevant to your people? Because you need to know what your audience or your clients, no, in this case, our customers, really need. Because it's not, the same for everybody. So you need information. You need data. This one really matters. Some it's really gut feel, and that really works at sometimes, no, gut feel. But you need to take time. You need to take time to see how are you going to make this one relevant and impactful to the person you want to make a difference with. Right? Evaluating now is about options. So the question really is, what value is this giving? Because sometimes the value really is about me. Because a lot of times we do things for ourselves. I'm going to get this performance. Right? So I'm doing this to get that performance. Right? So it's looking at that existential question about what does it really mean? The other thing is evaluating what are the trade-offs. No, in between a couple of options, which one will have a bigger value and which will have a lesser risk, right? Because that's life. We really have options. We just have to think about them and balance them. But again, we go back to the existential question, which is, what does this really mean? Because one thing that we learned in Deanna Murphy and from Patrick Lencioni uh, and from the Strengths Finder technology is that it's when we always think about ourselves, uh, we lose a lot. But when we forget about ourselves, we gain a lot. Yeah, we gain a lot. We create a lot of value, really. It's the irony of life. And that brings us to creating. Because we cannot, the question really is, how can I become better? Remember, a while ago, I said, we have to create something 10 times better, or 10 times the expected value. Why? Because unfortunately, we live in a in a society where a lot of things change exponentially, right? So run, if you cannot run with the others or outrun the others, and I'm not saying you should be competitive. I'm just saying you should be relevant. You should be up to the times. Yeah, because other people are also thinking 10 times. So you need to do the same thing. How can you develop yourself 10 times? Because if you're still iPhone 4, and right now they're going to be on iPhone 7, your operating system is becoming obsolete, right? You have to upgrade your operating system. So the question really is, how are you going to upgrade yourself 10 times? right? And that's a very difficult question to think about, because who knows the answer? But the good thing about it is that we can discover together. You can discover with your coach. You can discover with your friend. You can discover with your boss, right? But don't do it alone, right? Get a coach.
Beautiful. That's such a great, comment about getting a coach, Sidney. How have you discovered your own, aha moments, and either in your own coaching or either in your, coaching other people? What's been some of the biggest discoveries you have made in this whole journey of strengths?
Uh, One is what I don't know exactly who said it. It's a play in the words of Henry David Thoreau or Marcus Buckingham, but it goes something like, the tragedy of life is not that everyone doesn't have strengths; it's that we don't use the ones we have. And a lot of times, um, we don't. Why? Because we need to do a job, and the job calls for us not using our strengths, but it pays the bills, right? And that's where I'm saying, you could do better. You can do 10, still do 10 times. You can still create, you can recreate yourself, you can transform. Um, and I think a lot of people are missing out a lot on that one. Second one is the need for leadership, because uh, someone has to pathfind, someone has to carry the burden, someone has to show that, someone has to say, someone with authority, with credibility has to say, this one works, strengths works. The problem is a lot of a lot of our leaders uh, are into jack of all trades, or hey, I did this, I have to focus on my weaknesses and to become better, right? And so you have to do the same thing. So it's so hard. It's so hard now to sell, because the leaders themselves do not believe. But when you turn them around, it works, because it's so easy. It's so easy to make the organization go strengths based, right? So, eh, you can't say enough about how important leadership is in bringing Strengths Finder to create stronger lives.
And Sydney, you yourself have been a leader yourself in your corporate career, and also have been influenced leaders in the organization to see the value in this whole new way of looking at the world of strengths philosophy. And what advice do you have for coaches with their businesses when they are sort of having this battle every day, when they go to organization, they speak with leaders, and they're trying to make that mental shift that, hey, focus on what's right with your people? What advice do you have to give to them to make that shift and get a buy-in?
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I've been wanting to answer that question, because there are a lot of coaches whose domain expertise is really in coaching, in developing. But we need to build our ability to sell. But to sell well is not about selling. And a lot of people still believe in the adage that you're a great salesman if you can sell ice to an Eskimo. That one doesn't work. So the not people normally, when a coach goes out, meet a client, he or she takes orders. That's the first thing that normally a coach does. No, he takes orders and he says yes. No, now there's a probability it's the right solution, but there's also a probability it's the wrong solution, because you didn't ask, you didn't probe, right? The second not preferred way of doing selling is telling. You're here, your presence is so huge, it's so strong, you are an expert, and you say, you know what, the solution to all your problems is strengths finder, right? Yeah. So, and I've seen a lot of those. And it's like selling pancakes, right? You're telling people, "Hey, this is great. This is great," and you do it. You just do it. And then third, non-preferred way is the usual selling. No, you sell. Hey, when you do this, the strengths finder, you're going to perform well, right? But you see, that's only one side of the coin. You need to see the other side of the coin, which is the clients. You need to understand what he or she is going through, or what the organization is going through, to know that your intervention, your solution will really work. Yeah. So my prescribed solution, really, or the one I would recommend, is for you to go to consult. No? Ask questions, help people, no? Understand them more. Take some time, no? And then maybe the answer will come out. Right? And you know why this is so important? Because in psychology we have what we call the self-determination theory. The client or the buyer will buy when he knows he's the one deciding on it. That no one is influencing him to do it. And you know what? In consulting, it's really like that. You ask a lot of questions, uh, and then the answer comes out. Maybe it's not because you're leading him to the answer, but it's just coming out. The solution is just coming out, and then it's both win-win. No, you can say yes, I can deliver that, no? Or no, I can't deliver that, maybe, but I know someone who can do that for you, right? So that's something that is so important for coaches to know. And in asking effective questions, I think, well, this is just a short time to show you how. No, I mean to educate you how to do effective questions. But I have a formula, and you can play with it as much as you want. It's a play on the spin. Now in selling, we use the spin: situation, problem, impact, need. Right? I recommend that you use specifics. So when you sit down with your client, explore. Ask about the situation. What are you going into now? What's happening to the company? So it's basically trying to ground the data, and see and find out what the problem really is. No, so you're trying to get the story from him, no, or from her. Once the story comes out, the problem will come out too. But you need to define it with him. So what you say, you can say, do you mean to say that the problem is that the company used to perform at 110% and now you are at 75%, right? Where do you think that's coming from? And that's where the evidence of the problem comes in. Where is it coming from? How do you know it's a problem, right? And then see, so these are happening, and so what is this affecting? So you look at the consequences. Try to look at the consequences, because sometimes there are no consequences. That means it's not important. So you need to see if the consequences are really huge, right? And you need to ask, if this problem persists, what will be the implication to the company? What will be the implication to you? Maybe it's obvious, maybe it's not. But you see, the fact that people, when they are able to articulate that, they get convinced, right? The problem is when they don't articulate it, no, and they don't know it, no, they don't know it. So the case, the business case, is not established. By doing the SPECI, you're building the case. Now, but you cannot stop there. You need to look at where do you want to go, right? So you ask, where do you want to go? What do you want to see? What's your picture of success? What's your future desired results, right? And then, so what's that going to do to you and to your organization if you achieve that? Now, you need to rub that in, because you need to make them feel the happiness factor, the joy of reaching that. Yeah? That's the convincing part. That's the persuasion part, right? Now, you need to help them. You need to help them now. So you need to understand what prevented them from doing that, from achieving that, from achieving the future desired results, or from achieving the solutions. Is it budget? Is it leadership? Is it the lack of analysis? Now, why do you need to understand that? Because you don't want to go through the same thing, right? So, so you need to understand those things and make sure that everything is transparent, right? And then summarize. And basically, by summarizing, you're helping your client feel that you understand him, right? Write it down, put it in an email just to make sure that he doesn't forget, right? But summarize it, right? So if you do that, you'll be fine.
Thank you for sharing that. It's a really good model that you've shared of specifics. And I've seen, there's some really great coaches who are really terrible salespeople. So while they can do some impactful work, but that impact doesn't sort of, get, exponentially, or so just grows because they just the inability for them to go and, sell their services to other people as well. So for coaches who are listening in who want to expand their businesses, well, you can explore the specifics models. You might want to rewind this video, listen into the question that Sidney shared and document them down, maybe experiment with them in the conversation that you have with them. But also there are some really great salespeople who may be good coaches, but not great coaches yet. What advice do you have for them, for how do they upgrade their skills and knowledge to be better coaches?
Okay. Thank you for that. Now I'm excited about that one. Now, some coaches I know already know the value that they're giving to their market segment. So that's great. But there are some who are starting and could get overwhelmed because they're not earning yet, or they're not getting a lot of clients, or they're just getting anybody. Right? First, you need to define what your value proposition is. And I want you to look at the slide here, because there's a lot, but I'm going to lead you through that. This is called business model canvas. And you can see that in the net. What I have here is an example of an average coach. An average coach going through the business of strengths coaching, right? So the first thing you need to do is to know what the value you are actually you want to create in the market. It's important because it has to come from inside, from inside you. It's something that you love sharing, right? You could do another thing, which is who are the market segments that I want to cater to, or to delight, right? And that's at the far right of the slide. No, that's the customer segment. But when you do that, it's great also because now when you go to the specifics, for example, you target only the educational sector, you're targeting senior high school. So maybe from 16 years old to 21 years old, and both male, female. So it's a very specific market, and they have a certain kind of lifestyle. They're not earning yet, for example. They are not. They're basically studying. They have their barkada, their groups, etc. Now, But is that really the kind of market you can cater to? No? Are you successful in that market? Because that's a very big question. No, so because a lot of people get tired of a certain market. You have to love your market. Yeah, you have to love speaking with this kind of people. Uh, now, so that's why I suggest that you go back to what value proposition do you really bring. It's like Starbucks. Starbucks is not really good with coffee. Yeah? It's good with customer experience. Yeah? So when you go to Starbucks, people know you. They can tell your name, but they misspell your name. Well, you know the smell of Starbucks, right? But when you get out of, I mean, you go with your friends in Starbucks, you have fun, and before you know, you have pictures all over Facebook, right? It's customer experience. To you, as a coach, what is your value proposition? For me, for example, that could have been the one that you see there is my value proposition, but you cannot copy that. No, you have to have your own. Then find your market segment. Find your market segment. So, for example, for me, that could be my market segment: the educational sector and corporate. Right? I could go into specifics and say corporate except manufacturing, because I cannot handle labor unions. Yeah. So it could be, but you need to be specific. Why? Because later on you will realize that people know you because of your expertise on that particular segment, and you want to have successes. You don't want failures. You don't want a lot of failures. Maybe you want to, yes, but a lot, no. And there are segments that you probably will not have a knack of. No? And then from there, try to build your channel. How do you connect with them? In this case, the example here is direct sales, means say you go straight to them, right? Or referrals. Somebody refers me to them. My wife is really good here. No? So my wife has a network, of consultants. So and they help one another. So they say, my wife is an expert on this, or the friend of my wife is an expert on this one. Maybe I should give this to Sheila, and then Sheila gives this client to Agnes. It helps. It works, and they create value to one another, right? But you also need there's customer relationships. How do you build that relationship? Because you need to fuel that, right? You need to feed that. You need to nurture that relationship. So it's direct contact, connections, party, dinners. It's up to you, really. But you need to be able to specify that there. What this right side brings to you is revenue, right? And you choose executive. I choose executive coaching, for example. I'm doing executive coaching. So basically, that's where I get my revenue. I could do a little bit of training here and there, but my revenue stream is executive coaching, right? Now, I'll leave the cost side to you, but I think what matters right now is what value do you bring and to who, right? And how do you build that relationship? That matters for coaches to build their business. And of course, it also matters that you manage your cost.
Thank you, Sidney. Coach Sidney's advice for all you coaches out there is build your expertise. Be known for something unique that differentiates you, and also build the power of the collective. We live in a world where there's enough abundance around us. If you create a collective power, we can actually make a bigger impact as well. So feel free to find your partners, find your collaborators, and also find expertise as well. And Coach B, Coach Sidney, one of the key things that coaches have been struggling with is also to figure out, hey, great, I've done this coaching. coaching, how do I measure and track the impact this is creating in the organization? And you've been somebody who's been in an organization and seen the transformation happen. But somebody who's coming from outside in, what advice do you have for them? How do they track, measure, and showcase and highlight the impact that this initiative that they're doing or intervention they're doing is helping the organization?
Excellent point. I'm glad that you asked that. First, you need to create a structure in your coaching. Because some people just do coaching because it's needed today, and that's it. It's 1 day coaching or a 2 day coaching, right? You need to put a structure so you can measure the impact. And a structure means when you get into in a coaching engagement, for example, for me, an executive coaching engagement, I would usually go for 12, 13, or 14 sessions, right? But there's also a tripartite session at the beginning, a tripartite session in the middle, and a tripartite session at the end. What's a tripartite session? That's between me, the coachee, and the boss or the sponsor, right? That matters because in measuring, it means you need to know what are the expectations and are we meeting the expectations? What are the goals, right? So at the beginning, there's diagnosis. What are we trying to build? So you don't diagnose strengths anymore. You diagnose what are the lack of knowledge and skills and which areas need damage control, right? So in that case, you set that first at the beginning, right? And in the middle, you see how are we going against our goal, right? The same goals, no? And so there's a 360-degree feedback that I send out, to see if people really notice that there is an increase in knowledge and skill, right? Or there is an increase in the behavior that we're looking for, right? And then after that, basically that's a checkpoint meeting, and then after that we re-strategize. How do we make this one work? Because sometimes it doesn't work, right? Sometimes the coach gets so tired. It's because it's changing him. People don't like. I mean, some people are not coachable. So you have to live with that as a coach. But there are awesome coaches sometimes. No? But you see, you need to understand that sometimes it's painful. Now, strengths tells us, that when you use strengths, it's joy, it's happiness. Not really, because when you study 3-4 hours at night, that's painful because you lack sleep the following day, right? And sometimes, for example, me, I give people case studies, right? Because they have to make their mind work. They have to be creative, right? And so they have to do the job. They have to do the work. That one, from a level of comfort, from the comfort zone to an uncomfortable zone, is change. It's real change. And you know that the people are going through the transformation process. So now, what do you measure? No, and basically, the what's this? The visible behaviors. Is he doing it? Because if he's not doing it, then there's no return on investment. He has to be able to do it. Right? I hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much, Sidney. I think, for all the coaches listening in, it's a valuable advice is, measure so that we can manage it and be able to track that performance, and that starts by even going into a conversation with the leader, talking about what does success look like and being able to then track it, define it, refine it, and then be able to achieve that success as you go along as well. Thank you so much, Coach Sidney. I think this was really useful advice that you've given us. Some really good construct you gave right from Bloom's taxonomy to the specifics model that you shared, and being able to help coaches get some advice around how do you go and sell in the organizations as well. Just, from your perspective, the final thing is, what's been your biggest go-to story? Because I know story changes lives. So what are the biggest story that you have that you typically go to when you want to showcase impact and, showcase change and create inspiration in people around you? As a final closing comment from your side.
Okay. Thank you. I like that question. To me, it's really personal. It's really personal. I think it's what happened to me, my wife, and my daughter. Because since the beginning, I've been a real ambassador of strengths. But I wanted my wife to share it as well. I want to have her go through the experience. But it took a while, and I don't want to sell things to my wife. I want her to want it, right? So why is that so important to me? Because the strengths, it changed my life. I mean, all of a sudden, I understood who I am. I understood where I'm really good at, and I thought, my gosh, I'm not weird. I mean, I'm so strong at individualization and maximizer that I can actually tell when a person is so talented or not. But people don't believe me. And I tell them, I'm going to bet my 1 year salary this one is going to work, right? But people don't believe me. They think I judge people, right? So, and sometimes my wife would doubt me too, right? So, but I wanted her to experience what it really is, the magic of being able to understand the talents, the natural patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving of people. And when she was certified, oh my gosh, it's one of the happiest days of my life, because now there's the two of us, we are, we are probably one of the first couples in the Philippines who are certified StrengthsFinder coaches. And the other one was with my daughter. I mentioned before, I retook the StrengthsFinder test, right? But before, my competition maximizer achiever are too strong. So I put that on my daughter. She would, but you see, my daughter is so good. She would just follow. She would obey. And I didn't notice anymore. What's happening to her. I didn't realize that she was so stressed. She was so stressed by me, because of me. Because I just have, maximizer, right? Maximizer achiever. My gosh, the standards are just so high. I could study for hours. Anyway, and then I realized, my God, something's happening. Maybe I should let my kid take the StrengthsFinder test. And she did. And you know what I realized? She's woo, positivity, relator, individualization, and responsibility. Imagine me, a nagging father, doing that to someone who's positivity, woo, responsibility, right? My gosh, I did my kid a disservice. But I changed. You see, I changed. And that's why it's so important that we have something like this, that helps people understand right away, not in years. Because imagine the damage that can do to a person, because you didn't understand her, right? So I'm just so glad that I was able to get it right away. Although that took a lot of time. And I was able to understand my kid. I changed. I changed for my wife and for my kids.
Thank you, Sidney, for sharing that personal story with the audiences listening in. And for people who are interested to know more about their strengths, to be able to invest in this mission of investing in developing other human beings through this philosophy, this positive psychology of focusing on strengths of people and looking at what's right with them. We do have some offerings as well. If you want to become yourself Gallup Certified Strengths Coaches, we are bringing them to the Philippines as well. We have a course coming up from July 29th till the August of 2nd at EDSA Shangri-La in Manila. So do reach out to us at certification@gallup.com to know more. We also have one coming up in Singapore in July 15th to 19th as well. So we've got a lot of resources available, both in terms of formal training program, but also in terms of informal learning as well. The coaching circle, the coaching community within the Philippines is very vibrant. That it's not just taking a program, but also the continuous learning and upgrade they keep doing with each other. So feel free to connect up with us as well on our Facebook pages. We'll be happy to share more. And absolutely, Jim, you got tons of resources available on YouTube. Could you share more about what people listening in can log into and listen more and upgrade their skills and knowledge as well? Thank you,
bet,
Sidney.
You bet. Sidney, thank you for your time today. Appreciate it. And lots of great stories as well. Appreciate your time. We'll remind everyone to take full advantages of all the resources we have available, like Sarah mentioned. GallupStrengthsCenter.com. You can also send us your questions or comments. If you have any of those, you can send us to our email address, coaching@gallup.com. And don't forget, all those resources and links to them all are on our coaches blog, which is at coaching.gallup.com. Sarah mentioned some courses in the Philippines. And if you want to see a list of all of our courses that lead to certification, or even we have some for the managers. They're available right off of our courses page. Just go to courses.gallup.com. Join us in our Facebook group. The best way, at least the way on Facebook to get in there, is on our Gallup Webcast group. So go to facebook.com/groups/called-to-coach. I want to thank you for joining us today. We'll be back with another Called to Coach after the summit June 3rd, 4th, and 5th of 2019. By the time you're listening to this, it's probably over, and we really did miss you. It'll be available again in 2020, so you might want to head out to CliftonStrengthsSummit.com and get registered early so you can join us there live. Thanks for coming out. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.